You'll regret that this night ever existed.
I pulled into my driveway at 9:47 p.m., later than usual because Tommy Hendricks had stayed after school to discuss his essay on Macbeth. The kid was genuinely curious about whether Lady Macbeth was truly evil or just desperate. I'd found myself enjoying the conversation more than I'd expected. My headlights swept across the concrete, and that's when I saw him. A man lay crumpled near our front steps, groaning softly. Dark hair, athletic build, wearing gym shorts and a tank top that was now torn. He was trying to push himself up on his elbows. Jesus, I muttered, killing the engine and grabbing my phone. The front door burst open before I could get out of the car. Kayla stumbled onto the porch, her blonde hair disheveled, mascara streaked down her cheeks. She wore her yoga pants and sports bra, the outfit she'd been in when I left for work that morning. "Evan," she sobbed. "Thank God you're home. He tried to." I jogged over to the injured man, keeping my phone ready. "What happened?" "Who is this?" "I don't know," Kayla wailed. "He just came to the door, and when I answered, he pushed his way in." Julian heard me screaming and came running. Julian Stokes, our neighbor from 2 houses down, emerged from the shadows near our oak tree. His face was grim, his knuckles scraped and swollen. "Called 911 already," Julian said, his voice flat. "EMTs should be here in 5 minutes. Cops, too." The injured man lifted his head, squinting at me through swollen eyes. I didn't, he mumbled. "Don't talk," I told him, though something cold was settling in my stomach. "Help's coming." Kayla rushed to my side, pressing her body against mine. She was trembling, but I noticed she smelled like expensive cologne, not mine. "He was so violent," she whispered. If Julian hadn't heard. The ambulance arrived with sirens blaring, followed immediately by 2 police cruisers. The paramedics took over with practiced efficiency while Officer Martinez questioned us. "Ma'am, can you tell me exactly what happened?" Kayla's story was detailed and consistent. She'd been doing yoga in the living room when someone knocked. Thinking it was a delivery, she'd answered without checking the peephole. The man had forced his way in, grabbed her, tried to drag her toward the bedroom. She'd screamed. Julian had appeared like an avenging angel. Julian's account was simpler. Heard screaming, saw a stranger attacking my neighbor's wife. Did what any decent man would do. The injured man, Damon Quinn, according to his driver's license, was loaded into the ambulance. Before they closed the doors, I heard him mumbling something about a misunderstanding. Officer Martinez handed me his card. "We'll need you to come in tomorrow for a formal statement, Mr. Hale. Both of you." After the police left, Julian lingered on our porch. "You okay, Kayla?" he asked gently. She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Thanks to you. Just being a good neighbor?" Julian's gaze shifted to me. "Evan, can I talk to you privately for a minute?" Kayla squeezed my hand. "I'm going to take a shower. I feel dirty." When she'd gone inside, Julian stepped closer. His face was troubled. "Look, I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "I've been having some episodes lately, PTSD acting up. When I heard screaming and saw that guy through your window, I just reacted. You did the right thing." "Did I?" Julian ran a hand through his graying hair. "Because now I'm wondering if maybe I jumped to conclusions. The guy seemed confused, not aggressive, and Kayla..." He paused. "What about Kayla?" "Nothing." "Forget it." But Julian's eyes said otherwise. "Just be careful, Evan. Sometimes things aren't what they seem." 3 days later, I was grading papers at the kitchen table when I noticed Kayla frantically searching through the couch cushions. "Lost something?" I asked. "My phone. I can't find it anywhere." Her voice carried an edge of panic that seemed disproportionate. "When did you last have it?" "The night, everything was such chaos." She bit her lip. "I must have dropped it outside." I helped her search the house, but we came up empty. Later that evening, while Kayla was at her book club, I decided to check the backyard. I found the phone under our deck, the screen spider-webbed with cracks. Most people would have handed it over immediately. But something about Kayla's behavior, the panic, the evasiveness, made me pause. I teach teenagers for a living. I know when someone's hiding something. The local phone repair shop fixed it for $60 and didn't ask questions. Back home, I powered it on. The text messages told a story Kayla hadn't shared. "Damon, can't wait to see you again. Kayla, Evan's working late Thursday. Come around 9. Damon, your place or mine? Kayla, mine. I'll leave the side door unlocked. The timestamps were from the day of the incident. I scrolled further back, finding weeks of flirtation, explicit photos, and detailed plans for their affair. But it was the voice message from that afternoon that made my blood run cold. Kayla's voice, breathy and excited. Just park 2 houses down like we planned. I'll turn off the porch light so Julian won't notice. God, I can't wait to feel you inside me. I sat in my study for an hour, staring at the cracked phone. Damon Quinn wasn't a violent stranger. He was Kayla's lover, arriving for a planned rendezvous. And somehow, Julian's PTSD episode had turned their affair into an assault narrative. The front door opened. "Honey, I'm home," Kayla called out. I slipped the phone into my desk drawer and walked downstairs. "How was book club?" "Oh, you know. Jennifer's going through another divorce. She's such a drama queen." Kayla kissed my cheek. "Any luck finding my phone?" "Afraid not. You should probably get a replacement." "Yeah, I guess so." She paused at the bottom of the stairs. "Evan, you believe me about what happened, right? With that man?" I studied her face. The perfectly applied makeup, the concerned expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Of course I believe you," I said. "You're my wife." She smiled with relief and headed upstairs. I waited until I heard the shower running, then pulled out my own phone and composed a text message. From Kayla's number to Damon. "We need to talk. Somewhere private. How about that coffee shop on Hennepin tomorrow, 2 p.m.? The reply came within minutes. "Are you insane? Your husband could have had me arrested." "That's exactly what we need to discuss," I typed back. "Trust me." A longer pause, then, "Fine. But this better be worth the risk." I deleted the conversation from Kayla's phone and put it back in the drawer. Sometimes the best way to catch a liar is to let them think they're still getting away with it. The coffee shop on Hennepin was busy enough to provide cover, but quiet enough for conversation. I arrived 10 minutes early and chose a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. Damon Quinn walked in at exactly 2 p.m., scanning the room nervously. The bruises on his face had faded to yellow-green, and he moved carefully, favoring his left side. When he spotted me instead of Kayla, confusion flickered across his features. I stood and waved him over. "Damon, I'm Dr. Hale from the University of Minnesota. Thanks for agreeing to meet." He approached cautiously. "Where's Kayla?" "She's not coming. Please, sit down." I gestured to the chair across from me. "I apologize for the deception, but I needed to speak with you privately about what happened." "I don't understand." "I'm conducting a research study on relationship dynamics and marital stress." The lie came easily. I'd prepared it carefully. "Kayla mentioned your situation, and I thought you might be willing to share your perspective. For academic purposes, of course, completely confidential." Damon's posture relaxed slightly. Like most narcissists, he enjoyed talking about himself. "What kind of study?" "I'm particularly interested in how external pressures affect married couples. Kayla tells me you were friends and then someone, a neighbor, misinterpreted your relationship and attacked you." "Friends," Damon snorted. "Is that what she called it?" I leaned forward with scholarly interest. "There was more to it?" "Look, Dr. Hale, I don't know what game Kayla's playing, but we weren't just friends." Damon's ego was taking over. "She's been after me for months. Coming to my gym, flirting, asking for private training sessions. That must have been flattering." "Heck yes, it was flattering. Your wife is smoking hot." He caught himself. "Wait, you said your name was Hale. Are you—" "Kayla's husband, yes. But don't worry, this is purely professional. I study these dynamics for a living. Nothing you tell me will go beyond this conversation." Damon studied my face, looking for signs of jealousy or anger. Finding none, he seemed to relax further. "She practically begged me to sleep with her," he continued. "Said her marriage was dead, that you never paid attention to her anymore." "She set up that whole thing the other night." "The night you were injured?" "Yeah, by that psycho neighbor of yours. I was just following her instructions. Park down the street, come to the side door." "She said she'd leave it unlocked." Damon touched his ribs gingerly. "Next thing I know, some lunatic is beating the crap out of me thinking I'm a burglar." I nodded sympathetically. "That must have been terrifying." "You're right, it was." And then Kayla. She just stood there screaming like I was actually attacking her. Didn't say a word to help me. "Why do you think she did that?" Damon shrugged. Panic, I guess. Or maybe she realized how bad it would look if the truth came out. I signaled the waitress for another coffee. Can I ask you something personal? Are you married? Yeah, Carly. For the first time, guilt flickered across his face. She doesn't know about any of this. That must be stressful. Look, what Carly doesn't know won't hurt her. And it's not like Kayla and I were planning to run away together. It was just physical. I paid for both our coffees and stood to leave. Thank you for your time, Damon. This has been very enlightening. That's it? That's it. Like I said, purely academic. He stood as well, wincing slightly. Dr. Hale, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about everything. Kayla came on to me, but I should have been stronger. Don't worry about it, I said, shaking his hand. These things happen. I walked to my car and sat in the parking lot for 5 minutes, letting the rage settle into something colder and more useful. Then I drove to my lawyer friend's office and handed him the coffee receipt from our table. I need you to run a background check on this guy, I told him. Everything you can find. The gym where Damon worked was called Elite Fitness, one of those upscale places with juice bars and personal training rooms. I'd never set foot in it before, but I knew Kayla had been a member for over a year. I waited in the parking lot until I saw a petite brunette leave through the main entrance. She had the slightly overwhelmed look of someone who'd just finished a difficult workout. According to my research, this was Carly Quinn, Damon's wife of 4 years, currently employed as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital. Excuse me, I called out as she approached a blue Honda Civic. Are you Carly Quinn? She turned, immediately wary. Yes? I'm Evan Hale. I think we need to talk. Her face went pale. Oh God, you're Kayla's husband. I am. And I think your husband has been lying to both of us. Carly glanced around the parking lot nervously. I don't know what you're talking about. He told you he was attacked by a random stranger, didn't he? That he was trying to help someone and got beaten up by a crazy neighbor? Her silence was answer enough. Carly, I'm not here to cause trouble, but we both deserve to know the truth. She leaned against her car, suddenly looking exhausted. What truth? Your husband and my wife have been having an affair for months. The night he was injured, he was at my house for a planned hookup. My neighbor saw a stranger and assumed it was a break-in. She started to protest, then stopped. How do you know this? I pulled out a manila envelope I'd prepared. Audio recordings from the gym locker room. Your husband likes to brag to his buddies about his conquests. It wasn't true, but Carly didn't know that. Sometimes a bluff is more effective than evidence. I can't listen to this, she whispered. You don't have to. But Carly, ask yourself, has Damon been acting differently lately? Coming home late? Being secretive about his phone? Tears started rolling down her cheeks. He said he was working extra shifts to save money for... She stopped. For what? We've been trying to have a baby. He said the extra income would help with medical bills. Her voice broke. I just found out I'm pregnant. The words hit me like a physical blow. Here was a woman celebrating the best news of her life, while her husband was destroying 2 marriages for meaningless act. Congratulations, I said softly. That's wonderful news. Is it? Carly wiped her eyes. If what you're saying is true, I'm sorry. I really am. But you deserve better than lies. She clutched the envelope to her chest. What do you want me to do with this? Whatever you think is right. I just wanted to make sure you knew the truth before making any major life decisions. I started to walk away, then turned back. Carly, for what it's worth, I think you're going to be a great mother. Your child is lucky to have you. As I drove home, I felt a twist of guilt about manipulating her. But it was quickly replaced by cold satisfaction when I remembered Damon bragging about how what Carly doesn't know won't hurt her. Sometimes the truth hurts less than continued deception. Kayla was waiting for me when I got home, standing in the kitchen with her arms crossed. Her new phone sat on the counter between us like a tool. I know what you did, she said. What did I do? Damon called me. He said some creep claiming to be my husband was asking questions about our relationship. Her eyes blazed with fury. Were you following me, Evan? I don't need to follow you. Your old phone told me everything I needed to know. The color drained from her face. My phone was destroyed. $70 at Tech Repair on University Avenue. Amazing what they can fix these days. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Kayla's expression shifted from shock to defiance. So what if I was seeing Damon? Our marriage has been dead for years. Has it? Because I thought we were just going through a rough patch. A rough patch? She laughed bitterly. Evan, when was the last time you really looked at me? When did you last tell me I was beautiful, or plan a surprise, or show any passion about anything other than your precious students? The attack stung because it contained threads of truth. I had been focused on work, had taken our relationship for granted, so you decided to sleep with your personal trainer. I decided to feel alive again, to be with someone who actually wanted me, and lie about it, and let Julian think he'd stopped an assault. I panicked, Kayla's voice cracked. When Julian started hitting Damon, everything went crazy. I couldn't think straight. You could think straight enough to let an innocent man believe he'd saved you from rape. Julian isn't innocent. He's a violent psychopath who should be locked up. Julian has PTSD from serving his country. And he was protecting what he thought was his neighbor's wife from being attacked. Kayla grabbed a ceramic vase from the counter and hurled it at the wall. It exploded in a shower of white fragments. Don't you dare lecture me about morality, she screamed. You're so perfect, aren't you? Saint Evan, beloved by all his students, never does anything wrong. I teach Hamlet to high schoolers, I said calmly. Gaslighting is chapter 2. She stared at me for a long moment, breathing hard. I'm going to my sister's, she said finally. I need to clear my head. Good idea. When I come back, we're going to talk about this like adults. Sure. And Evan? Stay away from Damon. He's not as stable as he seems. After she left, I sat in my study and opened my laptop. Kayla's fitness influencer career was built on her image as a devoted wife and fitness enthusiast. Her Instagram account had 50,000 followers, and she'd recently signed a sponsorship deal with a major athletic wear company. I found the company's website and located their brand partnership guidelines. Section 4.7 was particularly interesting. Brand ambassadors are expected to maintain personal conduct consistent with our family-friendly values. Any behavior that brings negative attention to our brand may result in immediate termination of partnership. I drafted a carefully worded email to their brand management team, attaching screenshots of Kayla's text conversations with Damon. Not the explicit photos, I wasn't that cruel, just enough to show a clear pattern of adultery. The reply came within 2 hours. Thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. We will be reviewing Miss Hale's partnership status immediately. Sometimes revenge doesn't require elaborate schemes. Sometimes you just have to let gravity do its work. The Minneapolis Children's Foundation annual charity auction was held at the Marriott downtown, a glittering affair where suburban socialites competed to see who could donate the most while wearing the least. Kayla had been co-hosting the event for 3 years, and missing it would have been social suicide. She'd returned from her sister's house 2 days earlier, calmer but more distant. We'd had the conversation she'd promised, a stilted, careful dance around the obvious issues. She'd admitted to the affair but insisted it was over. I'd accepted her explanation without comment, which seemed to unnerve her more than anger would have. You look beautiful, I told her as we walked into the ballroom. She did, stunning in a black cocktail dress that highlighted her figure perfectly. Thank you, she replied, but her smile was strained. Evan, about tonight, please don't do anything to embarrass me. When have I ever embarrassed you? She squeezed my arm. Just be yourself. Quiet, supportive husband. The auction was in full swing when Carly Quinn walked in. She wasn't supposed to be there. The tickets cost $200 each. And from what I knew about nurses' salaries, that was a stretch for someone saving for a baby. But there she was, wearing a simple blue dress and looking determined. Kayla spotted her immediately. What is she doing here? She hissed. Who? That woman. Damon's wife? Carly made her way through the crowd, clearly searching for someone. When she spotted Damon near the bar, her jaw tightened. Ladies and gentlemen, the auctioneer called out, our next item is a week-long stay at a luxury cabin in Duluth, generously donated by the Morrison family. But nobody was paying attention to the auction anymore. Carly had reached Damon, and even from across the room, their body language screamed confrontation. You son of a witch! Carly's voice carried over the ambient chatter. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Damon grabbed her arm, trying to pull her toward a quieter corner. Carly, not here. We can talk about this at home. Talk about what? About how you've been screwing your client while I've been working double shifts to pay for fertility treatments? The room was going quiet now, conversations stopping as people turned to watch the drama unfold. You invited me, Damon's voice rose defensively. Don't act like I forced you. That's when I pulled out my phone and started recording. Invited you where? Carly demanded. To the house that night. You texted me, told me to come over. I texted you? Carly's voice was dangerously quiet. Show me this text. Kayla had gone rigid beside me. We need to leave, she whispered. In a minute. Damon was fumbling with his phone, his face growing redder. It's not here. I must have deleted it. You must have deleted it, Carly repeated. How convenient. The entire ballroom was watching now. Someone had even turned off the music. Carly, you're making a scene, Damon pleaded. Think about the baby. I am thinking about the baby, she screamed. I'm thinking about whether I want my child to have a father who lies and cheats and destroys other people's marriages. She turned toward the crowd, her eyes finding Kayla in the sea of faces. And you, she called out. You pathetic, selfish witch. You have a good man at home and you throw it away for a few hours with my husband? Kayla started toward the exit, but Carly's voice followed her. How does it feel to know he was only using you? That he told his gym buddies you were just another desperate housewife begging for attention? The silence that followed was deafening. Then the whispers started. Isn't that Kayla Hale, the fitness influencer? I thought she was married to that teacher. Did you hear what that woman said? I stopped recording and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Kayla had reached the exit and was practically running toward the elevators. I found her in our car, crying into her hands. This is all your fault, she sobbed. You told that woman about us. I told her the truth. You destroyed me in there. My reputation, my business, everything. I started the engine. I didn't destroy anything. I just stepped aside and let you do it yourself. The next morning, Kayla's phone was buzzing with notifications. Her sponsorship deal had been terminated. Her Instagram was flooded with comments about the charity auction incident. Someone had posted video of Carly's confrontation, and it was spreading through local social media like wildfire. I can't leave the house, Kayla said, staring at her phone. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what? That I'm a cheater, a homewrecker. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down across from her. You could always tell the truth. Explain your side of the story. She looked up at me with something like hope. What would you say if I did that? Whatever you want to say, it's your story to tell. But we both knew the truth wouldn't help her. The truth was worse than the scandal. I was grading essays on my back deck when Julian appeared at the fence between our properties. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. Evan, can we talk? Of course. Come on over. He climbed through the gap in the fence that we'd never bothered to repair, moving with the careful deliberation of someone fighting internal demons. I've been thinking about that night, he said, settling into the chair across from me. About what really happened. What about it? I saw the news coverage of that charity thing. About your wife and that trainer. Julian's eyes were sharp despite his exhaustion. Made me realize maybe I had it wrong. I set down my red pen and gave him my full attention. That guy I beat up, Damon. He wasn't breaking in, was he? No, I said quietly. He wasn't. Julian absorbed this without surprise. How long had it been going on? Months, from what I can tell? And I just happened to have one of my episodes at exactly the wrong time. Julian laughed, but there was no humor in it. You know what the really screwed up part is? What? I feel bad about hurting him. Even now, knowing he was screwing your wife, part of me feels guilty for putting a man in the hospital. You thought you were protecting Kayla. Yeah, well, turns out Kayla didn't need protecting from him. She needed protecting from herself, Julian rubbed his temples. I've been seeing a new therapist. She says the guilt I'm carrying isn't about him. It's about all the times in the Middle East when I couldn't protect the people who actually needed it. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching a cardinal build a nest in the oak tree. Can I ask you something? Julian said finally. You seem pretty calm about all this. Your wife cheating, the public humiliation, everything. Most guys would be losing their crap right about now. I considered my answer carefully. I teach teenagers, Julian. You learn patience. You learn that sometimes the best way to deal with bad behavior is to let natural consequences play out. Natural consequences? Damon lost his job after that gym incident went viral. Kayla lost her sponsorship deal and her reputation. Their actions created their problems. I just didn't get in the way. Julian studied my face. You orchestrated this, didn't you? The wife showing up at the charity auction, the whole public meltdown? I had a conversation with Carly. What she did with that information was her choice. Crap. Julian shook his head admiringly. Remind me never to get on your bad side. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. Speaking of consequences, I have something for you. Call it a peace offering. I unfolded the paper. It was a gym locker combination. How did you get this? I went to apologize to Damon last week. Figured it was the right thing to do, even if he was there for the wrong reasons. Anyway, he was so pissed off and humiliated that he didn't even want to hear it. Started ranting about how his whole life was falling apart. And the combination? Julian grinned. He was changing out of his gym clothes while he was yelling at me. Wrote down his locker combo on a napkin and forgot about it. I figured you might find a use for it. Julian, I can't ask you to... You're not asking. I'm offering. He stood up. That guy helped destroy your marriage and made me complicit in a lie. Far as I'm concerned, he's got more punishment coming. After Julian left, I sat on the deck for another hour, turning the piece of paper over in my fingers. Some might call what I was planning petty revenge. I preferred to think of it as an educational opportunity. Elite Fitness was busiest between 6 and 8 p.m. when people stopped by after work to burn off their daily frustrations. I timed my arrival for 7:30, when the locker room would be crowded but not packed. Damon's locker was in the back row, numbered 247. Julian's combination worked perfectly. The contents were exactly what I'd expected. Protein powder, energy drinks, extra workout clothes, and a collection of motivational printouts he'd taped to the inside of the door. Quotes about success, determination, and crushing your goals. I replaced them with something more appropriate. The photo was from the night of the incident, Damon's bruised, swollen face looking pathetic and confused. Below it, in large block letters, I'd printed, "This is the cost of stealing a man's wife and parking like a coward." The second photo showed Damon's car parked 2 houses down from mine on the night in question, with a timestamp proving when it was taken. The third was a printout of the Google reviews his personal training business had been receiving since the charity auction incident. Unprofessional and unethical, avoid at all costs. Homewrecker. Destroyed his own marriage and someone else's. Zero integrity. Find a trainer who actually cares about family values. I closed the locker and walked out through the main workout area. A few people glanced at me curiously. I clearly didn't belong in this temple of fitness, but nobody questioned my presence. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you're so clever, don't you? This isn't over. I screenshot the message and added it to the file I'd been building. By noon, a friend who worked in social media sent me a link to a TikTok video. Someone had recorded Damon's reaction when he opened his locker, capturing his face as he saw the photos. The video had already been viewed 50,000 times, with comments ranging from supportive to savage. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. When you cheat, everyone finds out, eventually. This is what happens when you mess with the wrong husband. That teacher is a savage, and I'm here for it. The video was shared across multiple platforms, picking up momentum as it spread through the local fitness community. By evening, it had been featured on a popular Instagram account that specialized in public shamings gone viral. Elite Fitness called an emergency meeting with Damon that afternoon. According to their corporate policy, employees who brought negative publicity to the business could be terminated immediately. Damon Quinn was no longer employed there by 5 p.m. Kayla watched the coverage from our living room couch, her laptop balanced on her knees. "This is getting out of hand," she said quietly. "Is it? People are calling you a hero. They think you're some kind of genius for how you're handling this. I'm just letting consequences play out." She closed the laptop and looked at me directly for the first time in days. "What happens now?" "What do you mean?" "To us. To our marriage." I considered the question carefully. The honest answer was that our marriage had been over the moment she invited another man into our bed. But there were still moves to be made, pieces to be positioned. I guess that depends on what you want, I said. I want to fix this. Fix what exactly? Everything. The marriage, my reputation, the mess I've made. And how would you do that? Kayla's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. But I'm willing to try anything. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. We'll figure it out, I said. But I'd already figured it out days ago. The interview was Kayla's idea. I need to tell my side of the story, she announced over breakfast. People only know half the truth. I looked up from my coffee. Which half don't they know? That I was manipulated. That Damon pursued me for months. That he made me feel like my marriage was already over. Her voice took on the practiced tone she used for Instagram videos. I was vulnerable and he took advantage. That's one way to look at it. It's the truth, Evan. I made mistakes, but I'm not the villain everyone thinks I am. She'd arranged to appear on Care 11's morning show, a local program that specialized in human interest stories and community drama. The producer had promised a sympathetic interview focused on marriage, forgiveness, and second chances. I watched from home as Kayla sat across from host Jennifer Walsh, looking perfectly composed in a navy blazer and pearls. So, Kayla, Jennifer began, you've been through quite an ordeal these past few weeks. It's been devastating, Kayla replied, her voice trembling slightly. I made some poor choices, but I never intended for anyone to get hurt. Tell us about your relationship with Damon Quinn. Kayla took a shaky breath. Damon was my personal trainer. Over time, he became more than that. He was very persuasive, very charming. He made me feel like my marriage was already over, that my husband didn't care about me anymore. So, you felt manipulated? Absolutely. Damon is a predator who targets vulnerable women. He told me exactly what I needed to hear when I was at my lowest point. I had to admire her strategy. Paint herself as the victim, shift blame to Damon, appeal for sympathy. It might have worked if Carly hadn't been watching. My phone buzzed with a notification. Carly had posted a video response on Facebook. In the video, she sat in what looked like her living room, her pregnant belly visible beneath a simple sweater. Her voice was calm, but furious. I just watched Kayla Hale's interview, and I have to respond. She wants to paint my husband as a predator and herself as a victim. Let me tell you what really happened. Carly held up her phone. This is a voicemail Damon left me 3 weeks ago before everything came out. Listen carefully. The audio was crystal clear. Damon's voice, slightly drunk, rambling about his conquest. Carly, baby, you're so naive. You think I'm working late, but I'm actually screwing this hot little housewife. She practically threw herself at me, begged me to come over when her husband was at work. You should see the things she does. Things you'd never do. The video continued with more evidence. Text messages, photos, even a recording Damon had made bragging to his gym buddies about that desperate teacher's wife who can't get enough. By noon, Carly's response had been viewed 200,000 times. Kayla came home in tears. She destroyed me, she sobbed. That vindictive witch destroyed everything I said. She just told the truth. The truth. Kayla whirled around. You want the truth? I cheated because you stopped caring about me years ago. Because you care more about your students than your wife. Because you never make me feel beautiful or wanted or special. So it's my fault. Yes, no, I don't know. She collapsed onto the couch. Everything is ruined. My business, my reputation, my friends, nobody will even return my calls. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her face crumpled. What now? The fitness center dropped my classes. They said my presence would be disruptive to the community atmosphere. I sat down beside her. I'm sorry. She looked at me with something like hope. Are you? Are you really sorry? I'm sorry you're hurting. But you're not sorry it's happening. I considered lying, offering false comfort. But we were past that now. No. I'm not sorry it's happening. Kayla stared at me as if seeing me clearly for the first time. You orchestrated all of this, didn't you? The wife showing up at the auction, the gym thing, even that interview somehow. I had conversations with people. What they did with that information was their choice. You manipulative bastard. But there was almost admiration in her voice. How long have you been planning this? Since the night I found your phone. And you've just been, what? Waiting for me to destroy myself? I've been letting consequences play out naturally. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. What happens now? She asked finally. I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. Divorce papers? Divorce papers. Kayla opened the envelope with trembling fingers, scanning the documents. You're not asking for anything. The house? Savings? Nothing? I don't want your money, Kayla. I just want out. Then what do you want? I pointed to the bottom of page 3. Custody of Charlie. Our golden retriever looked up at the mention of his name, tail wagging hopefully. Kayla's face crumpled completely. Not Charlie. Please, he's all I have left. You should have thought of that before you decided to blow up our life. She signed the papers with tears streaming down her face. 6 months later, I stood in the same spot where I'd found Damon Quinn on my concrete. The driveway looked different now, cleaner somehow, as if the pressure washer had removed more than just stains. Charlie sniffed around the oak tree, his tail wagging as he investigated scents only he could detect. The dog had adjusted to our new routine better than I had. We'd moved into a modest 2-bedroom rental across town, close enough to school that I could walk to work. The mailman approached, his bag slung over his shoulder. Tom Morrison had been delivering mail to this neighborhood for 15 years, and he'd seen it all. Morning, Mr. Hale, he called out cheerfully. Morning, Tom. He paused at the end of my driveway, glancing at the house. I heard the new owners are moving in today. I followed his gaze. A moving truck was parked outside what used to be Damon and Carly's house. The foreclosure had gone through quickly after Damon lost his job and Carly filed for divorce. Young couple, Tom continued. Got a baby on the way. Should be good for the neighborhood. I'm sure it will be. After Tom continued his route, I stood there sipping coffee from my travel mug, watching the movers unload boxes and furniture. Life moved on. New families replaced old ones. The neighborhood healed itself. Footsteps on the sidewalk made me turn. Kayla walked slowly down the street, her head down, earbuds in. She looked thinner than I remembered, her designer workout clothes replaced with generic athletic wear. When she spotted me, she stopped walking. We hadn't spoken since the day she signed the divorce papers. She'd moved in with her sister temporarily, though I'd heard through mutual acquaintances that she was struggling to find permanent housing. Her fitness career was effectively over, at least locally. She pulled out her earbuds and approached cautiously. Hello, Evan. Kayla. How's Charlie? Good. He misses you. I miss him too. Her voice was barely a whisper. I miss a lot of things. We stood there for a moment, two people who'd shared 12 years of marriage trying to figure out how to talk to each other. I got a job, she said finally, at a gym in St. Paul. Just teaching basic classes, nothing fancy, but it's something. That's good. I know you probably don't care, but I wanted to tell you, I'm in therapy. Real therapy, not just talking to my sister. Trying to figure out why I sabotaged everything good in my life. I studied her face. She looked genuinely different, humbled in a way I'd never seen before. I'm glad. Are you? Really? I never wanted you to be miserable, Kayla. I just wanted you to face consequences for your choices. She nodded slowly. Mission accomplished. A car pulled up to the curb, a beat-up Honda Civic that had seen better days. Kayla glanced at it nervously. That's my ride. I can't afford a car right now, so my sponsor from therapy gives me lifts sometimes. Your sponsor? I'm working the steps. Turns out I have some addiction issues around attention and validation. Who knew? She attempted a weak smile. Step 9 is making amends to people I've harmed. Kayla, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. I destroyed our marriage. I hurt you. I hurt Carly and her baby. I hurt Julian by making him complicit in my lie. Her voice grew stronger as she continued. I'm just saying I'm sorry, truly sorry. And I hope someday you can find peace with what happened. The car honked gently. I have to go, Kayla said. Take care of yourself, Evan. And give Charlie a hug from me. She walked toward the car, then turned back one more time. You didn't have to ruin everything, you know. You could have just left me. I could have, I agreed. But then you wouldn't have learned anything. She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. You always were the teacher in the family. After she left, I walked back to my house. Julian was in his front yard trimming hedges with military precision. That looked like a heavy conversation, he called out. Lighter than you'd think, I replied. She doing okay? She's working on it. Julian nodded approvingly. Good. Everybody deserves a chance to make things right. How are you doing? Better. The new therapist is helping a lot. Turns out guilt is just another form of self-indulgence if you don't do anything constructive with it. He gestured toward the house that used to belong to Damon and Carly. Speaking of making things right, you hear about Carly? What about her? She had the baby, healthy girl, 8 pounds, 2 ounces. And she's engaged to that nurse from her hospital, the one who helped her through the divorce. I felt a warm surge of satisfaction. Carly had landed on her feet. That's wonderful news. You're right, it is. She deserves happiness after what she went through. Later that evening, I sat in my study grading papers. Charlie sprawled across my feet, snoring softly. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into its quiet evening routine. My phone buzzed with a text from my principal. Great work on the Romeo and Juliet production. Students are still talking about it. Have you considered directing the spring musical? I typed back, let me think about it. For the first time in months, I was considering the future rather than managing the past. It felt strange but liberating. The Minneapolis Tribune's Local Lives column ran on Sundays, featuring ordinary people with extraordinary stories. I usually skipped it, but this week's headline caught my attention. From betrayal to redemption, one woman's journey back. The article was about Carly Quinn, now Carly Martinez, after her marriage to fellow nurse Roberto Martinez. The photo showed her holding her daughter Emma, while Roberto smiled beside them in their modest but cheerful living room. I thought my life was over when I discovered my husband's affair, Carly was quoted as saying. But sometimes the worst thing that happens to you opens the door to the best thing. The article detailed her journey from devastated wife to empowered single mother to happily remarried woman. She'd returned to school to become a nurse practitioner and had started a support group for women dealing with infidelity. I learned that betrayal says nothing about your worth and everything about the other person's character, she continued. My daughter will grow up knowing her mother fought for her happiness and won. There was no mention of Damon by name, though the article alluded to his current circumstances. The former husband now works at a chain gym in Arizona and has had no contact with his daughter since the divorce was finalized. I was happy for Carly. She'd taken the worst situation of her life and transformed it into something meaningful. That afternoon, I ran into Dr. Sarah Chen at the grocery store. She'd been Kayla's therapist during our final year of marriage, one of many professionals Kayla had consulted but never truly engaged with. Evan, she said warmly, how are you holding up? Better than expected. And you? Good. I heard through the grapevine that you handled everything with remarkable grace. I wasn't sure how to respond to that. I also heard Kayla is doing well in her program, Dr. Chen continued. Real progress this time, from what I understand. I hope so. Can I ask you something, professionally speaking? Sure. The way you handled the situation, it was very systematic, very controlled. Some might say calculating. I waited for her to continue. I'm not judging. In fact, I think you may have done something remarkable. Instead of exploding or seeking immediate revenge, you created a situation where natural consequences could play out. Everyone involved was forced to confront the truth of their actions. I'm not sure I follow. Damon lost his job and marriage because his behavior was exposed, not because you attacked him. Kayla lost her reputation because her choices became public, not because you sabotaged her. Even Julian found peace by learning the truth about that night. Dr. Chen selected a cantaloupe and placed it in her cart. It's almost like you created a controlled environment where justice could occur naturally. Like a teacher designing a lesson plan where students discover the moral on their own rather than being told what to think. Maybe I just got lucky. Maybe. Or maybe you understood something most people don't, that true consequences teach better lessons than imposed punishments. After she left, I stood in the produce section thinking about her words. Was what I'd done justice or revenge? Did it matter if the outcome was the same? My phone rang. The caller ID showed Julian's number. Evan, you need to get over here now. What's wrong? Just come. And bring Charlie. I found Julian in his backyard standing over his garden bed with a satisfied expression. Charlie immediately started sniffing around, his tail wagging. Look at this. Julian said, pointing to the soil. What am I looking at? Tomatoes. First ones I've been able to grow in 3 years, he grinned. Turns out the problem wasn't the soil or the seeds or my technique. It was guilt. I was so focused on all the things I'd done wrong in the Middle East that I couldn't nurture anything new. And now? Now I know the truth about that night. I know I was protecting someone, even if I didn't understand the situation completely. The guilt is gone. He picked a ripe tomato and handed it to me. Try it. The tomato was perfect, sweet and acidic and full of summer sunshine. Julian, this is incredible, right? Turns out when you stop poisoning the ground with self-doubt, good things can grow. We stood there in comfortable silence, watching Charlie explore the garden. Can I tell you something? Julian said eventually. Of course. I used to think justice was about punishment. Eye for an eye, all that. But watching how you handled everything, I think maybe justice is about balance. Letting people experience the full weight of their choices. Is that what I did? You tell me. Damon chose to betray his pregnant wife and pursue someone else's. He lost his marriage, his job, and his reputation. Kayla chose to break her vows and lie about it. She lost her career, her social standing, and her husband. Julian picked another tomato. But here's the beautiful part. Everyone got a chance to rebuild. Carly found real love. Kayla is in recovery. Even Damon has the opportunity to become a better person if he chooses to. And me? You? You got to keep your integrity while everyone else learned the true cost of losing theirs. Charlie bounded over with a tennis ball he'd found somewhere, dropping it at my feet expectantly. Some would say what I did was cruel, I said, throwing the ball across the yard. Some people confuse justice with cruelty, Julian replied. But cruelty is what Damon did to his pregnant wife. Cruelty is what Kayla did when she let me think I'd stopped a rape. What you did was just efficient. 1 year after the incident, I stood before my advanced English class, preparing to teach our unit on moral complexity in literature. The students, bright, cynical 17-year-olds, stared back at me with the mixture of attention and skepticism that defined their age. Today we're starting The Count of Monte Cristo, I announced, writing the title on the whiteboard. Can anyone tell me what this story is about? Jessica Chen raised her hand. Revenge. More specifically, a guy gets screwed over and spends years planning perfect revenge on everyone who wronged him. Good. And what makes his revenge perfect? The students pondered this. Finally, Marcus Thompson spoke up. He doesn't just hurt them, he makes them destroy themselves. Exactly. Dante doesn't end his enemies. Instead, he creates situations where their own flaws and choices lead to their downfall. Why is this more satisfying than simple revenge? Because they can't claim they're innocent, offered Sarah Kim. They have to face what they really are, I nodded approvingly. The most effective justice isn't imposed from outside. It emerges from within, when people finally confront the consequences of their actions. After class, I walked through the quiet halls toward my office. The school day was ending, and the familiar sounds of teenage life, lockers slamming, friends making plans, the squeak of sneakers on linoleum, filled the corridors. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Saw the article about Carly. So happy for her. How are you doing? Good, I replied. Really good. And I was. The past year had been a process of rebuilding, but I discovered that starting over in your 40s wasn't the catastrophe I'd expected. The rental house had become home. Charlie had adjusted beautifully. My teaching had improved, perhaps because I'd learned something about human nature that couldn't be found in textbooks. Another text, this one from an unknown number. Mr. Hale, this is Tommy Hendricks. I graduated 3 years ago. I'm in college now studying literature because of your class. Just wanted to say thanks for showing me that stories matter. I smiled, remembering the kid who'd stayed after school to discuss Lady Macbeth's motivations. The ripple effects of teaching were often invisible until years later. The parking lot was nearly empty when I reached my car. As I unlocked the door, I noticed a familiar figure sitting on the bench near the bus stop. Kayla wore scrubs and looked tired, but healthier than I'd seen her in years. She approached cautiously. I hoped I might catch you. How's the new job? Good. Hard work, but honest work. I'm teaching water aerobics to senior citizens at the community center. She managed a self-deprecating smile. Not exactly Instagram material, but it pays the bills. And therapy? 1 year sober from attention-seeking behavior. Turns out validation addiction is a real thing. She shifted her weight nervously. I wanted to tell you something. About consequences. I waited. For months after everything fell apart, I hated you. I thought you were cruel and vindictive and that you destroyed my life for entertainment. And now? Now I understand that you didn't destroy my life. I did that myself years before Damon came along. You just stopped enabling it. Kayla pulled a small notebook from her purse. My sponsor has me write letters to people I've harmed. Most of them I'll never send, but I wanted you to know what I wrote about you. She opened to a marked page and read, Dear Evan, I spent 12 years taking your love for granted while demanding constant proof that I was worthy of it. I confused attention with affection and drama with passion. When you stopped participating in my need for chaos, I found someone who would. But chaos isn't love and attention isn't intimacy. You tried to love me through my insecurities, but I mistook your stability for indifference. I'm sorry I threw away the best thing in my life because it didn't feel like a romantic comedy. She closed the notebook. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand the difference between consequences and punishment. What you did taught me something punishment never could have, which is that actions have weight, that choices echo, that the person I was becoming was someone I wouldn't want to know. Kayla looked directly at me. You gave me the chance to hit bottom cleanly, without anyone to blame but myself. That's actually a gift, even if it didn't feel like one at the time. A city bus approached, and she gathered her things. Take care of yourself, Evan. You're a good man. You deserved better than what I gave you. Kayla? She turned back. You deserved better than what you gave yourself, too. I'm glad you figured that out. After the bus pulled away, I sat in my car for a few minutes, processing the conversation. There was something profoundly satisfying about seeing someone take full ownership of their choices, even when those choices had caused tremendous pain. My phone rang. Julian's number. Evan, you free for dinner? Carly and Roberto are in town with the baby, and we're having a barbecue. You should come. I'll be there. As I drove toward Julian's house, I thought about the past year and the strange turns life could take. A violent misunderstanding had revealed a betrayal, which had led to public humiliation, which had led to personal growth for everyone involved. Maybe that was the real lesson of stories like The Count of Monte Cristo. Justice wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about creating space for truth to emerge, consequences to unfold, and people to choose who they wanted to be when faced with the full weight of their actions. The barbecue was exactly what I needed: friends, laughter, and the simple pleasure of watching new life flourish. Emma Martinez slept peacefully in her mother's arms while her stepfather grilled burgers and Julian told stories that made everyone laugh. As the sun set over Minneapolis, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: complete contentment with the present moment. No plotting, no planning, no waiting for consequences to unfold. Just life, moving forward at its own pace, carrying all of us toward whatever came next. Hey, Evan, Carly called out. Come tell Roberto about your Shakespeare unit. He's thinking about auditing some literature classes. I walked over to join the conversation, Charlie trotting beside me, and realized that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well enough that revenge becomes irrelevant.